Good afternoon all. Welcome to the lecture of complex analysis. In last lecture, we have seen what is a fundamental theorem of algebra. Okay, that is fundamental theorem of algebra is nothing but if we have one non-constant polynomial, then it must have a root in complex number system. And after that, we have seen one result. That one is nothing but if p of z be any non-constant polynomial and a1, a2 up to so on am be m roots of p of z with multiplicity k1, k2 up to so on km, then this polynomial has a root in, then p of z can be written as c into z minus a1 to the power k1 into c into z minus a2 to the power k2 up to so on z minus an, so am to the power km, where degree of p of z is nothing but k1 plus k2 plus up to so on km, and c be any constant in a complex number system. Okay, so today we have to see one result. That one is nothing but if G be any connected set and if G is any connected set and F is of analytic function defined on that set G, then we have to prove the three statements are equivalent. Let us see first the statement. What theorem? Let G be a connected set and F is function from G to C is an analytic function. Is an analytic function. Then the following three statements are equivalent. Or the following statements are equivalent. In that, first one is nothing but F is nothing but a 0 on set G, and in second one, the set which contains all the points in capital G, Z belonging to G, such that f of z equal to 0 has a limit point in set G, has a limit point in set G, and the last one is nothing but there is a point small a, there is a point small a in G such that f of a is, that is fn of a is nothing but 0 for all n greater equal by 0. Okay, so we have to show these three statements are equivalent. That is 1 implies 2, 2 implies 3, 3 implies 1. Then our required result we will get. Okay, so here we have G be a connected open set. Sorry, there is a printing mistake. Here we have to take G be a connected open set and F is an analytic function depend on that set G. Then these three statements are equivalent. So here we will use first one to prove the second one, use second one to prove the third one, and use third to prove the first. Okay, so let us see the proof. So here we have let G be a connected set, connected open set, and F is analytic on G. F is analytic on set G. Now we have to prove that 1 implies 2. So let us take 1 implies 2. So we have to use the first one to prove the second one. So let F is nothing but 0 on set G. It is 0 on G, it means F of Z has a value 0 for each element Z belonging to set G. And we have to prove that. Before to prove, let us take capital H be a set which contains all the points in G such that f of Z will be equal to 0. And we have to prove that this set, that is H, has f of Z equal to 0, has a limit point in G, limit point in set G. That is we have to prove. And this set is nothing but H. That is here we have to prove that this set H has a limit point in G. Now, what is set H? Set H is nothing but it contains all the points of G for which f of z will be equal to 0. But here we have given f is 0 for each value of z in set G. It means H is nothing but G. Since H contains only those points of G for which f of z will be equal to 0. But here f of z is 0 for every point of G. It means this H is nothing but whole G, which implies H is nothing but G. So here H is nothing but our total set G. But G is a open connected set. Okay. So here we have G is a open connected set. Now there is one theorem in or property of connectedness in topology, that is if X is connected set, X is a connected set, then the sets or subsets, then the subsets of X which are both open and closed, are capital X and empty set only. So if we have a topological space or two-dimensional space and there is one set X which is a connected set, then this set has only two subsets which are both open and closed, and that one are nothing but that set X itself and the empty set. These are the only two sets which are both open and closed. As here G is our capital X and it is connected set, as it is open and connected, then it must be closed, which implies G is closed by the property of connectedness. So G is closed, but G is equal to H, which implies H is also closed. H is closed, and any set is said to be closed if it is equal to its closure. It means it contains all of its limit points, which implies H contains all of its limit point. But H is nothing but it contains all the point in G for which f of z will be 0. It means as H contains every limit point of H is again in H, which implies z belonging to G, f of z equal to 0 must have has a limit point in that set itself, that is H itself. Since H is nothing but this set, so this set has a limit point in H, but H is nothing but G here, which implies z belonging to G such that f of z equal to 0 has a limit point in G, set G, and that is we have to prove, and hence the proof. So 1 implies 2 here. Okay, so first part will be true. Now we have to prove that second implies 3. That is, we have to take f of z is nothing but, that is z belonging to G, f of z equal to 0 has a limit point in G. Then we have to prove that there is a positive integer or there is a point A in G such that fn of A will be equal to 0 for each value of n greater or equal by 0. Now we have to prove 2 implies 3. Okay, so what is 2? Let capital H be a set which contains all the points of G for which f is 0 and has a limit point in set G. Say A be a limit point. Okay, so here we have taken A as a limit point. Now we have to prove that is there is a point A in G for which fn of A will be equal to 0 for each value of n greater or equal by 0. As A is a limit point of this set H, it means there exists one sequence of points in H and that converges to A, which implies there exists a sequence Zn of points in capital H such that Zn tending towards A, that is limit n tending towards infinity Zn is nothing but a. Okay, but as each Zn belonging to H, f of z becomes f of Zn becomes 0, since for each point H contains all those points of G for which f of z will be equal to 0. So as here we have taken the sequence of points in H, therefore each Zn is belonging to H. As each Zn is belonging to H, then f of Zn must be equal to 0. So here f of Zn will be equal to 0 for each value of n. Okay. Now F is as F is analytic on set G. Analytic on G. As F is analytic, it means it is continuous also, which implies F is continuous. As F is continuous and our Zn is tending towards A, then by the definition of continuity, which implies F of Zn is tending towards F of A. Let us take this one as equation 1. Now, that is, this one is nothing but limit n tending towards infinity. F of Zn is nothing but F of A. But f is a continuous function. It means from 1 and 2, f of Zn is mapped to unique point, that is 0. It means f of A will be equal to 0. But f of A is equal to 0. A is a limit point of H, and f of A equal to 0. H contains all those points of G for which f of Z will be equal to 0. Here f of A equal to 0 and A is belonging to G, which implies A is also a member of capital H also. So here we get A is a member of H. It means a limit point of A is again in H. Okay, now here we have to prove that there is a positive integer or there is a point small a, sorry, not positive integer, it is a point A in G such that Fn of A is equal to 0 for each value of n greater or equal by 0. That one is we have to prove. For proving this, we will consider a wrong assumption, that is Fn of A is not equal to 0. So if possible, suppose that there is a positive integer small n, there is a positive integer small n such that such that f of A is equal to 0, f dash of A is also 0, and up to so on fn minus of A is also equal to 0, but fn of A is not equal to 0. So here we have taken fn of A is not equal to 0. As here we have f is analytic on G. We have f is analytic on a set G. As f is analytic on G, which implies there exists some R greater than 0 such that open ball about A of radius R must be a subset of G. As f is analytic on this set G, it means it is also analytic on open ball also, which implies f is analytic on open ball also. Now we have to use our Taylor's theorem. What is Taylor's theorem? If f is analytic on open ball about A of radius R, then f of Z is nothing but series n running from 0 to infinity an z minus a to the power n for modulus of z minus a is less than r, and a is nothing but 1 upon n factorial f1 of a. So by Taylor's theorem, f of z is nothing but summation n running from 0 to infinity. Sorry, here we will take k. Instead of n, we will use k. K running from 0 to infinity ak z minus a to the power k, where modulus of z minus a is strictly less than r, where an is nothing but, sorry, ak is nothing but 1 upon k factorial fk of, okay, so this one is nothing but ak. Now this f of z can be written as, which implies f of z is equal to summation k running from 0 to infinity ak into z minus a to the power k minus n into z minus a to the power n. This one is nothing but z minus a to the power k minus n plus n. Plus n minus n get cancelled, and total we get z minus a to the power k. Okay. Now, as here summation is running over k, so we will take z minus a to the power n outside the sum. So it is nothing but z minus a to the power n summation k running from 0 to infinity ak z minus a to the power k minus n. So which is nothing but z minus a to the power n. And let us take this one as some g of z. So f of z is nothing but z minus a to the power n into g of z, where g of z is equal to, where g of z is nothing but series k running from n to infinity, sorry, series. Now if we take z minus a to the power n common, before going to this step, we have to use our required. That is, here we have assumed that f of a equal to 0, f dash of a equal to 0 up to so on, f minus of 1 of a will be equal to 0. And if we take f of a will be equal to 0, then we will get a naught will be equal to 0. Let us see just how it is. Okay. So this will be direct step. So this will be somewhat difficult to understand. So we will go to that step only. Okay. Just we will use our given, that is f of a will be equal to 0, f dash of a will be equal to 0, and up to so on fn minus of a will be equal to 0. Okay, so actually this f of z is now this one, where ak is nothing but 1 upon k factorial fk of a. Before going to this step, we will write just our f of z. What is f of z then? From above step, as k is running from 0 to infinity. For k equal to 0, it is nothing but a naught. For k equal to 1, it is nothing but a1 z minus a. So it is actually nothing but a naught plus a1 into z minus a plus a2 into z minus a to the power bracket square plus up to so on. Okay, so that one is nothing but f of z. But we have, but here f of a equal to 0, f dash a also 0 up to so on, f n minus of 1 of a will be equal to 0. Now if we take f of a equal to 0, then this will be LHS will be 0. Similarly, if we put z equal to a, then this one is 0. Similarly, this one is 0. And finally we get only a naught, and a naught, which is, and having left hand side will be f of a, and f of a is 0. It means we get a naught will be equal to 0. Similarly, if we take its first order derivative, then we get f dash of z, which is equal to a naught will be constant, its derivative 0, and it is nothing but a1 plus 2 times a2 into z minus a. Again, if we put f dash of a, then again remaining terms are equal to 0, and there is only one non-zero term, which is a1, and its LHS is again 0. So up to so on, we get an minus 1 is equal to 0, and our an is non-zero. An is not equal to 0. Now we will use an is non-zero since fn of a is not equal to 0. If fn of a is also 0, then an is also 0. Okay, now just put this a naught equal to 0, a1 equal to 0, an minus 1 equal to 0 in our given series f of z. Then it becomes series k running from n to infinity an z minus a to the power n. Since the first non-zero term will be an only. Okay, so f of z becomes, f of z is nothing but series k running from n to infinity ak into z minus a to the power k minus n. Now we can write this one as summation k running from n to infinity ak z minus a to the power k minus n. Sorry, here it is k z minus a to the power k minus n into z minus a to the power n. So it is nothing but z minus a to the power n summation k running from n to infinity ak z minus a to the power k minus n. Now we will take this series as a g of z. So it is now become z minus a to the power n into g of z, where this one is nothing but f of z. And take this one as question number 3, where g of z is nothing but, where g of z is nothing but summation k running from n to infinity ak z minus a to the power k minus n. Now this one is nothing but g of z, that is, it is actually nothing but, if k equal to n, then it is nothing but an z minus a to the power n minus n, which is 0, and anything raised to 0, which is plus 1, plus an plus 1 into z minus a to the power k is nothing but n plus 1 minus of n get cancelled plus 1 plus 8 an plus 2 into z minus 8 square and plus up to so on. So this will be nothing but g of z. And from this one, what is the value of g of a? G of a is equal to, if we put z equal to a, this one is 0. Similarly, this one is 0 and continuing so on. So here there is only one term an, and already our an is non-zero. This one an is not equal to 0, which implies this one is g of a is not equal to 0. But we have f is analytic on g, as f is analytic on g and g is some part of our f only, that is f of z is nothing but z minus a to the power n into g of z. As f is analytic, g must be analytic. So g is analytic on open ball about a of radius r. As g is analytic on open ball about a of radius r, it implies g is continuous on that one. G is continuous also. G is continuous, and here g of a is not equal to 0. Then by the property of continuity, there exists some small r. So there exists some r greater than 0 and which is less than r, such that g of r is non-zero for all z belonging to open ball about a of radius small r. माझा दिलेला फंक्शन जी हा कंटिन्युअस आहे आणि मला एक पॉईंट ए मिळतो जिथे माझा फंक्शन नॉन झिरो आहे, याचा अर्थ मला एक लहान ओपन बॉल मिळेल ज्यामधल्या सर्व पॉईंटसाठी माझा जी फंक्शनची व्हॅल्यू ही नॉन झिरो असेल, विच इज जस्ट बाय द प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ आवर कंटिन्युटी अँड limiting values. Okay, so g of r is not equal to 0 for all z belonging to open ball about a of radius r. And in starting here we have taken a is a limit point of set h and it is also a member of s. That one is we have proved. So as a is a limit point of h, as a is a limit point of set h and any point is said to be a limit point of h if its neighborhood contains infinitely many point of set h. Then by the definition of limit point only, we have open ball about a of radius r, limit point of set h, intersection h contains at least one point other than this a. It means as a is a limit point, it means open ball about a of radius r intersection h contains at least one more point than other than this a, that is this one minus a is non-empty. Let us take b be any point in this intersection, open ball about a of radius r intersection h, which implies b belongs to both the sets, open ball about a of radius r and b is belonging to set h. But open ball about a of radius r and g of r is not equal to 0 for, that is g of z is not equal to 0 for each z belonging to this open ball, as b is belonging to this open ball, which implies g of b is not equal to 0. So g of b is non-zero and b is belonging to set h. What is set h? Set h contains all the points of g for which f has a 0 value, as b is belonging to h, which implies f of b is 0 and f of b is equal to 0. Let us take this one as equation number 4. Now from equation number 3, what is equation 3? F of z is equal to z minus a to the power n into g of z. Then what is f of b? F of b is nothing but b minus a to the power n into g of b. From 3, what is f of b? F of b is equal to b minus a to the power n into g of b. But what is f of b? F of b will be equal to 0, which is equal to b minus a to the power n into g of b. Okay, now here we have taken b be any point other than a in this intersection. It means b is not equal to a. So here b is not equal to a. As b is not equal to a, it means b minus a is not equal to 0. As b minus a is not equal to 0, product of these two one is equal to 0. It means at least one among them will be 0. As b minus a is not equal to 0, it means g of b must be equal to 0, which implies g of b will be equal to 0. But this one is not possible, since for each value of z which is belonging to this open ball, g of z is our non-zero. But here we get g of b will be equal to 0, so which is contradiction. And this contradiction arises due to our wrong assumption. Which assumption? That is fn of a is not equal to 0. So our assumption is wrong. So our assumption is wrong. As our assumption is wrong, it means what is the correct statement? There exists a point small a in G such that fn of a is equal to 0 for each value of n greater or equal to 0. Whatever will be the value of n. Okay, so here we have proved second implies third. Now it remains to prove that 3 implies 1. If we prove this 3 implies 1, then our required proof is over here. Okay, now the last part, which is nothing but to prove that 3 implies 1. What is 3? Let us take. Let there is a point small a in capital G such that fn of a is equal to 0 for each value of n greater or equal by 0. Okay, and we have to prove that f is nothing but 0 on set G. F is nothing but 0 on G. It means f of Z has a value 0 for all Z belonging to set G. Now we will construct one set capital A which contains all the points of our set G for which fn of A will be 0 for all n greater or equal by 0. Okay, so here set A contains the points of set G for which fn of A will be equal to 0 for each value of n greater or equal by 0. As A contains the points of G only, then A must be a subset of G. Now here we claim A is both open and closed. Open and closed. That is just here we have to prove that A is a set which is both open and closed. Okay. Now first, let us check whether our set is empty or not. That is, set A is empty or not. Already we have taken there is at least one point A in G for which fn of A will be equal to 0 for each value of n greater or equal by 0. Since we are using third one to prove first one, so there is only at least one point A for which fn of A will be equal to 0 for each value of n greater or equal by 0, and A is a set which contains all the points of G for which fn of A will be equal to 0. It means at least that one A is belonging to this capital A, which implies this A is non-empty. That is, it contains at least one point. That one is nothing but A. Okay, now we will claim A is both open and closed. Okay, so let A be any point in A, and A contains all the points of G. It means it is a subset of G, and G is a open connected set, and G is open. As G is open, any set is said to be open. We know that what is an open set. If it contains all of its interior point. If find out its interior, then it must be equal to the set itself. That is G interior, nothing but G. And what is the G interior? It contains all its interior point. What is an interior point? Any point is said to be interior point if there exists a neighborhood of that point which is properly contained in our given set. As G is open, which implies there exists some r greater than 0 such that A is belonging to that open ball about A of radius capital R, and which is subset of G, which is from since G is open. As G is open, then there exists a neighborhood of that point A which is properly contained in our set G since G is open. Okay, now already we have F is analytic on G, which implies F is analytic on this open ball also. Analytic on open ball about A of radius R. As F is analytic on our open ball, then we will use Taylor's theorem, which implies by Taylor's theorem, okay, f of Z is nothing but summation n running from 0 to infinity an Z minus A to the power n, where modulus of Z minus A strictly less than R, and an is nothing but 1 upon n factorial fn of A. Now here our supposition is nothing but fn of a will be equal to 0 for each value of n greater or equal by 0. Just that, put that value here as fn of a will be equal to 0, which implies as fn a is equal to 0 for each value of n greater or equal by 0, which implies this an is also 0. An equal to 0 for all n greater or equal by 0. As an is equal to 0, then our series is also 0, which implies f of z is equal to 0 for all z belonging to our open ball about a of radius r. Since here our taken this circle, that is modulus of z minus a less than r, and which is nothing but this open ball. Okay, as f of z is 0, then fn of z is also 0 to 0 for all z belonging to open ball about a of radius r. So if whatever will be the point of this open ball, z is belonging to open ball, then fn of z will be equal to 0. And what is the set A? Set A contains all the points of G for which fn of A will be equal to 0. So for each value of this open ball, fn z will be equal to 0, which implies this z is belonging to our capital A. So if we take any point in open ball, then it must be belonging to A. Then by the definition of subset, if x is belonging to A and we prove x is belonging to B also, then A must be subset of B. If this is true for all x. Okay. So here, if we take any point in open ball, then it must be belonging to A, which implies open ball about A of radius r must be a subset of A. So, which implies for each A belonging to capital A, there exists a open ball about A of radius r such that this A is belonging to that open ball about A of radius r, and which is subset of A. Okay, so every point of A is a interior point. It means capital A is open set, which implies A is open. Okay, so here our half part is covered. Now here it remains to prove that our set A is a closed set. Okay, so to prove that A is closed, and A is said to be closed if it contains all of its limit points. That is, A closure will be equal to A. So if we here we will take one arbitrary limit point of that set A, and we prove this limit point is belonging to set A. Then, which is, as this one is arbitrary point, then it is true for every point. So if it contains all of its limit point, then A must be closed. So let Z be a limit point of A, as Z is limit point of A, which implies there exists a sequence Zn of points in A, of points in capital A, such that Zn is tending towards this Z. That is, limit n tending towards infinity, Zn is nothing but Z. But fn of A is equal to 0 for each value of n greater or equal by 0, which implies fn is continuous. Since fn exists, it means it is differentiable function exists. It means obviously it is continuous. But fn is continuous function. As fn is a continuous function and zn is tending towards z, which implies limit n tending towards the infinity, fn of zn becomes fn of z. Okay, but here we have chosen Zn be a sequence of points in A, as here as each Zn is belonging to A, which implies fn of that Zn, sorry, fn f to the power n of Zn is equal to 0 for all n greater or equal by 0. Since Zn is a sequence of points in A is nothing but it contains all the points of G for which fn of A will be equal to 0. As Zn is belonging to A, then fn of Zn must be equal to 0. Okay, so put that value, which implies LHS of this one is nothing but 0, which implies fn of Z is also 0. Fn of Z will be equal to 0. It means Z is also a point of A. Since A contains all the points A, such that fn of A will be equal to 0. As fn of Z is 0, it means Z is belonging to A. But Z is a limit point of A, and this limit point will be arbitrary. So from this one, we can say A contains all of its limit point. A contains all of its limit point. If all limit points of A are contained in set A itself, then A is closed, which implies A is closed. So here A is both open and closed, both open and closed, and our A is a subset of G. But G is a connected open set, and by the property of connected set, there are only two sets which are both open and closed, which are nothing but G, and that is the set itself, and empty set. But here we have proved that A is not equal to 5. That is, there exists at least one point in A. It means it is not equal to 5. Then there is only one possibility for A, which is nothing but the set A is nothing but G only. Since for any connected set has only two sets which are both open and closed, that are nothing but G and empty set. As A is not empty and it is both open and closed, it means A is equal to G. And Fn of Z is equal to 0 for all Z belonging to A. But A is nothing but G, which implies Fn of Z is equal to 0 for all Z belonging to G also. Fn of Z equal to 0 for each value of Z belonging to G, and n greater equal by 0. If n equal to 0, then it is nothing but F naught of Z, and which is nothing but F of Z, which implies F of Z is equal to 0 for all Z belonging to our set G. That is, F is nothing but a 0 on a set G, and that is we have to prove, and hence 3 implies 1, and hence the required proof. Okay, so this will be our required proof. So if we have one connected open set and there is a function F which is analytic on that set G, then these 3 statements are equivalent. That is, F is nothing but 0 on set G. In say second one is nothing but Z belonging to capital G, such that F of Z equal to 0 has a limit point in set G. And third one is nothing but there is a point A in G such that Fn of A will be equal to 0 for each value of n greater equal by 0. Now there is a one consequence depending on this theorem, which is also called as identity theorem. Okay, so let us see what is the consequence. Let F and G are analytic on a region G, then F is equal to G on set G if and only if the set which contains the points of G such that F of Z equal to G of Z has a limit point in set G, has a limit point in set G. Okay, so here we have given F and G are two analytic functions which are defined on a region G. Then we have to prove that F is equal to G on G, then this set has a limit point in G, and if this set has a limit point in G, then F must be equal to G. So let us see its proof. We have to just use our previous theorem to prove this one. So let us define capital H of small h of Z as F of Z minus of G of Z for all Z belonging to G. But here F and G are analytic on set G. As F and G are analytic on G, then by the algebra of analytic function. Algebra means if F and G are analytic function, then F plus G is analytic. F minus G is analytic. F into G is analytic. C into F is also analytic. So as F and G are analytic, then F of Z minus G of Z is also analytic. Then which implies H of Z is analytic on G. Analytic on set G. So here H of Z is analytic on our set G. Now by previous theorem, is F is analytic on a set G, and if F equal to 0, then the set which contains the points of G for which F of Z equal to 0 has a limit point in G. As here H of Z is analytic on G. So if F is equal to G on G, then what is H of Z? As H of Z equal to F of Z minus G of Z. If we take F equal to G, then F minus F, which is 0. So then 0 function. Then H is nothing but 0 on G. Okay. So if F equal to G on G, then H is nothing but 0 on G. And if H is 0 on G, as H is analytic and H is 0 on G, then by previous theorem, this set which contains the points of G for which h of z equal to 0 has a limit point in G. So which implies the set which contains the point of G for which h of z is 0 has a limit point in G. Limit point in set G. Okay, and as these three statements are equivalent, if z equal belongs to G, h of z equal to 0 has a limit point in G, then f must be equal to G. That is, if this one has a limit point in G, then h is equal to 0. And when h is equal to 0, if f equal to G. So this one is nothing but if and only if. Now just we will put here the value of h of z. So if f is equal to 0 on G, sorry, f equal to G on G, then h is nothing but 0 on G if and only if the set z belonging to G, h of z, which is nothing but f of z minus g of z, and which is equal to 0, has a limit point in set G. So that is, if f is nothing but G on G, then h equal to 0 on G, h is equal to 0 on G if and only if the set z belonging to G. F of z minus g of z. Just add g of z on both sides, then we get f of z is equal to g of z and has a limit point in set G. So if f equal to G, then this set has a limit point in G, and if this set has a limit point in G, then f must be equal to G, and that one is we have to prove, and hence the required result. Okay. So here to prove this consequence, just we have used our previous theorem. That one is nothing but if G be any open connected set and f is analytic function on that set G, then the three statements are equivalent. That is, f is equal to 0 on G, the set Z belonging to G for which f of z equal to 0 has a limit point in G, and there is a point small a in G such that fn of a will be equal to 0 for each value of n greater or equal by 0, and this will be our its consequence, which is also called as an identity theorem. Okay, thank you for watching the lecture.